The marble halls of Buckingham Palace had never felt so cold, so silent. Despite the ornate fireplaces burning with glowing embers, an icy tension seemed to chill every corner of the royal residence. It was a day unlike any other. A day that would echo in the history of the British monarchy for generations. King Charles III sat in his private study, his hands clasped tightly together. The letter lay open on the mahogany desk before him, but he didn't dare look at it again. Its words were burned into his mind. Outside, the London sky was gray and heavy, as if the clouds themselves mourned what was to come. Just days earlier, everything had seemed in order. The king had been preparing for a new initiative, a grand tour of the Commonwealth designed to reinforce the crown's presence and relevance. Prince William and Princess Catherine, the ever-loyal Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, were to accompany him as the future faces of the monarchy. Together, they were to present a united front to a world increasingly skeptical of royalty. But then came the statement. It had arrived not through royal channels, but through a carefully orchestrated press conference held at Kensington Palace. William and Kate had stepped onto the podium together, hand in hand, their faces solemn but determined. The press had expected a routine update on Kate's charitable work, or perhaps a new campaign from the Royal Foundation. No one expected what came next. After many months of personal reflection, family discussions, and deep consideration of our roles within the monarchy, William began, his voice unwavering, "Catherine and I have decided to take a step back from our senior royal duties." Gasps filled the room. Journalists looked at one another in stunned disbelief. Cameras clicked furiously as Kate continued. "This decision has not been made lightly. We remain devoted to the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. But we believe that the future of our family, and of the institution itself, requires a new approach. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel." They spoke of pressures, both public and private, the constant scrutiny, the rigidity of royal tradition. They expressed their desire to raise their children with more freedom, more privacy. Most shockingly of all, they announced plans to spend the majority of the year abroad, splitting time between the UK and a new charitable foundation headquartered in Canada. Back in Buckingham Palace, the statement struck King Charles like a lightning bolt. He hadn't been warned. There had been whispers, of course, tense dinners, subtle disagreements, William's increasing frustration with the palace machinery, but he never expected a public break. Not from William. Not from the boy who had once clung to his hand at Princess Diana's funeral. Not from the man he'd groomed to be king. The media exploded within hours. Headlines screamed betrayal. Social media erupted in chaos. Royal commentators tried to piece together what this meant for the line of succession, for the monarchy's future. And in the eye of the storm sat Charles, aging, weary, and now alone. Inside the palace walls, the reaction was swift and divided. Queen Camilla stood by Charles, offering a mixture of support and concern. "They'll come around," she told him gently, though her eyes betrayed her doubt. "This isn't final. They're young. Maybe they just need space." But others in the royal household weren't so forgiving. Senior aides were outraged. Some whispered of abdication, of crisis meetings and emergency plans. The more traditional members of the royal family, Princess and Prince Edward, were furious. Loyalty was sacred to them, and this move felt like treason. But amidst the chaos, one voice remained conspicuously silent: Prince Harry. Across the Atlantic, Harry watched the news with a mixture of pride and sorrow. He had walked this path years earlier with Meghan. He knew the weight of the decision, the backlash it would bring. But he also knew the freedom it offered. For the first time in years, he felt closer to his brother than ever. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Back in London, King Charles stared out the window of his study. Rain had begun to fall, tapping softly against the glass like the ticking of a clock running out of time. His thoughts drifted back through the years, to the promises he made his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, about unity and tradition, to the dreams he had for William, to the legacy he so desperately wanted to leave. And now that legacy was in jeopardy. A knock came at the door. His private secretary entered with a folder. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "the press is demanding a response. They want to know where the crown stands." Charles turned, his face lined with exhaustion. "And what do you suggest we tell them?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The secretary hesitated. Perhaps transparency. A message of understanding. Compassion even. The public still loves William and Kate. If we condemn them, we may lose the people. Charles nodded slowly. Then let it be compassion. The official response came the next morning, released on royal letterhead and signed by King Charles III himself. While I am deeply saddened by the decision of my son and daughter-in-law, I understand their desire to find a new path forward. The monarchy must evolve as it always has, and I remain hopeful that their work, wherever it is carried out, will continue to uplift and serve the people of our nations. It was a diplomatic statement carefully crafted, but those close to the king saw the truth behind his words. He was heartbroken. Days turned into weeks, and the royal calendar shifted. Events were cancelled, appearances rescheduled. Public opinion was split. Some praised William and Kate for their bravery, others saw it as abandonment. But one thing was clear. The monarchy was changing. In Canada, William and Kate launched their new initiative, the Future Forward Foundation, focusing on global education, environmental sustainability, and youth empowerment. They gave speeches, met with Indigenous leaders, and lived a quieter, more grounded life with their children. They were no longer just symbols, they were becoming human again. Meanwhile, in London, Charles pressed on. He attended meetings, cut ribbons, delivered speeches. But the light in his eyes had dimmed. Every time he stood before a crowd, he wondered if the people were still looking for a king, or if they were already looking toward the future. One evening, months later, Charles received a letter. It was handwritten, sealed with a familiar crest. He opened it slowly. Dirpa, we hope you're well. We want to thank you for your grace and understanding in the past few months. It hasn't been easy for any of us, but we want you to know this isn't goodbye. We're still here. We still care. We still believe in the values you taught us. Let's find a new way together. With love, William and Catherine. Tears welled in the king's eyes. He folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer beside another older letter, one written decades ago by his mother, Queen Elizabeth, reminding him that the strength of the monarchy lies not in rigid rules, but in resilience, love, and change. And for the first time in a long while, Charles felt hope. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.